where he says in that letter that no, you do not come from the Brahman. But yet we have 3 or 4 sightings by him in his purports where he clearly says that we are coming from the Brahman. So now the question has to be, do you accept the letter as superior to what he has written in the purports of his books? Or do you accept the purport of the book? Which is the superior evidence? Prabhupada didn't want his letters published because he said, I have written these letters. I remember what happened. There was a very specific situation. Shyamasundar, who was his secretary, was taking the letters and making copies of them and then sending them to the GBCs so that they could see how Prabhupada was handling different situations by reading how he was talking with people in the letters. So what was happening was the GBCs were being a little loose with the letters, and it started filtering into the devotee population. So 2 letters in particular caused some concern. One was a discussion about one sannyasi who had been married before, and his wife was now blooping and going into Maya and eating meat. So he felt some responsibility to go back and save her. And Prabhupada was saying, no, this is nonsense. You should not, you've left her, that's it. You don't go back now. Now you're a sannyasi. But it caused a lot of difficulty because everybody knew who that person was. And so he was getting many, questions. So a very private matter became a very public matter. And it was not proper. The second thing was a letter that he wrote to Krishnadas. You'll see several letters that he wrote to Krishnadas. Krishnadas was a very educated scientist. And so when he read that Rahu swallows the moon, he went ballistic. He said, this is nonsense. How could Rahu swallow the moon? We know, we have the scientific evidence. The moon is here, the sun is here, the earth gets in the middle, the numbers are calculated, like this. So Prabhupada wanted to appease him because he could see that he didn't have enough faith. So Prabhupada wrote in the letter, sometimes in Bhagavatam there are some analogies only. So this Rahu is like that. So he wrote that to appease him. But when you read about the Rahu Lila in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada very clearly declares that Rahu exists. So am I supposed to accept the purport of the Bhagavatam, or am I supposed to accept this letter? This is always the point. And so when Srila Prabhupada heard that other devotees were disturbed by the letter of the analogy, he made the point that I gave this to Krishnadas because he's a scientist. It's not for the devotee population, it was for him. So this is a very, very important point. This is what they don't know. This is what they don't understand. So this is part of the problem. So we have to accept the purports first. There was one, that lady where Prabhupada stayed at the house in Butler, Pennsylvania, Sally Agarwal. She got married to an Indian man, Mr. Agarwal. She said something about Prabhupada which was very brilliant, because it really expressed who Prabhupada was and how he dealt with him. She said that in person, Srila Prabhupada was very, very charming and accommodating, but he was very forbidding in his books. So by giving this statement, she made the point that books were the law. What does that mean? If I am the judge, I'm given a law book. The law says this man has killed another man, he has to die. So now I will look at this law book. Law book says man has to die. I'm the judge. I hear the evidence. I say, okay, he has brutally murdered this person to steal money from him. So therefore, no mitigating circumstance, death penalty. This is the law. But supposing the man was cleaning his gun and the gun accidentally went off and the bullet went through the window across the street and it hit somebody, then this is not murder. Therefore, he has to adjust. Okay, the law says he killed another man, he has to die. But in this case, it was not premeditated murder. It was accident. So therefore, some reduction of the sentence is given. Maybe he will spend some time in jail or something like that, or pay some restitution to the family or whatever. But he makes adjustment. So the letters that Prabhupada gives, they are adjustments due to our lack of faith. He gives some adjustment. Okay. Jivas are not coming from Brahman. Okay. Jivas coming from Goloka. Okay. Because we are not ready to digest properly this thing. We cannot understand it. One of my godbrothers had a discussion with O.B.L. Kapoor, Prabhupada's godbrother. And O.B.L. Kapoor said he discussed this with Prabhupada. And he asked Prabhupada, why do you say the jiva is coming from Goloka? And Prabhupada told, they are such impersonalist people in West. So impersonalist people. So I wanted to give them some idea. Okay. Just like in Bible they have this idea, Adam and Eve were in Garden of Eden and then they had to come to the world. So I gave them some vague idea like this. Yes, you were there with Krishna in his Leela and then you came here. Because he wanted to satisfy their, he didn't want to feed their misconceptions of impersonal understanding and consciousness. So therefore, to reduce that, he gave this instruction. In the Jaiva Dharma, it is very clear that from Balaram come the jivas who go to Goloka. From Mula Sankarshan come the jivas that go to Vaikuntha. And from Mahavishnu come the jivas that either come to the material world or some go to the spiritual world. So, one of the arguments of the ISKCON devotees is that in this statement of Balaram, about Balaram's, the Nitya Siddhas coming from Balaram, that it appears that they are like expansions of Balaram, that they are not actually jivas, because the word that's used doesn't really indicate jivas. It indicates, eternal parikars, which are more like expansions. So then the question you have to ask yourself is, okay, if you are saying that the jivas that Balaram manifests, that go to Goloka, are nitya parikars and actually expansions, so that they're not really jivas like the other jivas. And at the same time you are saying that the jivas come from Goloka to this world. So then how did the jivas end up in Goloka in the first place? From where do they come? If they're not coming from Balaram, but yet they're coming here, how were they in Goloka in the first place? If everyone that's coming from Balaram is what you say, a Nitya Parikar expansion of Balaram and not actually a Mamavam So Jiva Loke, a Jiva, then from where are the Jivas coming? Do you have any verse explaining where the Jivas are coming from that go to Goloka that end up coming here? That is one point. They have no answer for this. A second point. It is clearly stated everywhere that Maya has no place in Vaikuntha. Even the Lord cannot have Vira Ras in Vaikuntha. He has to come to this world to fight with Jai and Vijay. He cannot fight with them in Vaikuntha. No such consciousness exists in Vaikuntha. So, therefore, how is it possible that one could become envious of Krishna? From where this envy will come from? The envy is a material, it is Maya. It is coming from Maya. And Maya does not exist in Vaikuntha. So how can you have envy there? Where can the envy come from? There is no envy because there's no Maya. So how it will come? So then they give an argument that one of the younger god brothers of Prabhupada wrote one book. And he explained that when the jiva is in Goloka and he is looking at Krishna, it's not really envy, but he has some desire to enjoy like Krishna. From where this desire will come? But once he has that desire, then he comes through the Maya. So this minor god brother, who is not very important, some Grihastha who has written this book, him they want to believe. When Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada and Srila Vaibhav Puri Maharaj and Srila Pramod Puri Maharaj and Srila Narayan Maharaj and Srila Vaman Maharaj and all of the other acharyas, the greatest personalities, when they all say no, Jiva cannot come from Goloka, oh, this they dismiss. All these persons are wrong. But this minor god brother who has some misconception, oh, him we accept him. This is complete nonsense. Complete nonsense. This is the problem. Problem is, they are holding on to this conception. Oh, we were in Goloka, then we came here. We were in Goloka, back to Godhead. Back to Godhead had nothing to do with coming from Goloka and going back to Goloka. Back to Godhead was a statement of a Christian priest. Prabhupada heard that slogan and he thought, oh, this is something the Christians in the West believe in, so I will use it. Back to Godhead.